Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hey everybody, it's me, Remy, the comic book poser, and I'm here today to welcome you to Enter the Poserverse. It is Mad Cave Thursday here on my channel. It's now officially a thing that this morning I released my top books of 2020 from Mad Cave Studios, and like I said, it was like picking which one of my children were my favorite, although I'm not creative enough to claim that I have any ownership over these books. But that was a hard process to go through in terms of ranking them. And not just tonight, but also next week, there will be some interviews with, some Mad Cave Talent Search winners talking about the new and upcoming books that they've got releasing across the next 2 months. So I'm going to play my really, really crappy interview intro bumper that I still love very much, and I will update sometime maybe. And then we'll talk about today's guest.
When I'm flying in a plane or I'm on the street, there's a lot of famous people that I like to meet. They shake my hand and never ask my name, and they start asking questions that are always the same. Hey.
All right, so I am very excited to get to talk to a longtime veteran of the comic community or the creator community, but a first-time author through any kind of publisher. Today we're going to talk with Liezl Buenaventura about her upcoming book, which releases, I think it's in 2 weeks, although my understanding of time is now way, way gone because of COVID brain. But everybody say what's up to our guest, and we'll talk about it. But welcome to the stream. I'm very excited that you are here. When Stoney sent some messages saying that you were looking for people to talk about the book, I was like, yes, I read this one yesterday, and immediately sent you an email and then showed how poor I am at responding and communicating via email. So
thank you so much for having me.
For people who may not be familiar with you or your work, do you want to take a few seconds and kind of summarize what you do in the world of art, comics, graphic novels, all of that stuff?
Okay. So I'm a full-time comic colorist, and I started doing this in 2008. And in 2019, I joined the Mad Cave Talent Search, and I was one of the winners. And that's how I got my start writing comics professionally.
And you've done work for, like I said when we were emailing each other, that for some reason I didn't put your name together with Stabbity Bunny.
Yeah.
That you've done work for a couple of publishers. And one of the things that we were talking about backstage that I'm going to tell the fine people who are watching this, that I several times will refer you to watch the amazing interview that she had with Bearded Comic Bro in the last couple of days to kind of talk about the background. But what exactly what got you interested in the world of art and comics? And then we'll talk about the transition into wanting to write. Okay.
So I started reading comics really young, at about 7 or 8 years old. My mom gave me Archies because she used to read them when she was a kid. And with Archies came Casper, Wendy, the Good Little Witch, if anyone remembers that.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I moved to like X-Men, Batman, just because they were what my brother was reading. I have an older brother, and his favorite comic was Spider-Man, but I kind of like the X-Men more. And then after that, I moved to like the Vertigo stuff as a teenager, which makes me sound kind of emo, but yeah, I liked a lot of the DC Vertigo stuff as a teenager. And then, around that time, I was trying to decide what to do, professionally, because I was about to enter university and stuff like that. And I knew I wanted to get into the visual arts. And I got into a university, and I was majoring in fine art. And, from then on, I really tried to figure out a way to get into the comic industry as a visual artist. And because I liked painting, that was what I enjoyed doing in university. I felt like that translated to coloring more than penciling. And my line art is not nearly as strong as my painting. So that's why, I thought, I can try to make a real go of this. But getting into comics is generally pretty hard. I mean, even for people who live in the same country as publishers do. So I was in Manila. I'm still in Manila, and back then, comic submissions were done via post. Which, oh man, I feel really old. But what you used to do was you printed out your work and then you mailed it to Marvel and DC. And back then, they also had open submissions, and nothing ever came of it. But eventually, I went into corporate design. That was my job for a while, but I never forgot about comics. I kept trying to get in somehow, and then I stumbled across comic forums where indie creators were, communicating with each other, trying to find other indie creators, and that's how I got my start. I started getting gigs through comic forums. I guess nowadays the equivalent would be getting work through social media. But yeah, back then that's how you got work. And I built my career from comic forums to small publishers to medium publishers. And I'm still very much in love with the indie scene. That's where I live. So yeah, that's how I got my start.
Nice. So I know that in listening to your interview with Greg and in looking at some of the promotional materials that are on Mad Cave's website, that you are a class of 2019 talent search winner, and you decided to enter in the author category instead of the artist category. So how long had you been flirting with the idea of wanting to, switch to the other side of the paper and, write a script instead of focusing solely on coloring?
I've always liked writing short stories. Like, I really enjoyed that when I had to do it for school. And, throughout high school, I was in the school paper, stuff like that. And I never thought about doing it professionally because I was very much interested in visual art. And I knew that if I wanted to get into visual art, I had to really buckle down and, focus on that. But in terms of writing, I've always enjoyed it as a hobby. I just never, it just feels so personal. And I've never had, like I was telling Greg, I've never had the guts to, try to sell some of my stories just because, there's a fear there that, number one, I never studied it. Like, unlike visual art where, going to university and going the whole gamut of criticism from your professors, it kind of gets you ready for the real world. And I wasn't prepared for writing critics. And so it was just kind of in the back of my mind. Oh, sometimes I'll think of a comic storyline and then I'll write it down. But, I never had the guts to kind of try to sell it. And when I saw the talent search, I was like, okay, I think I'm 37. I was 36 at the time, but it's time. Like you kind of either have to put up or shut up. And I sat down and I looked at the requirements, and the requirement was basically to pick any one of their existing titles and basically write a short story in one of those worlds. And I love science fiction, so I picked Midnight Task Force, which is cyberpunk, and I wrote a short 8-page comic story about that, and I was lucky enough to be one of the winners.
Do you think it, like, playing in somebody else's universe or playing with somebody else's characters kind of got you past that fear of sharing something that was intimately yours, that instead of being judged on your initial idea, it was, if they don't like it, then it was just I didn't adapt the world correctly? Is that something that maybe made you switch gears or mentally made it easier to switch gears?
I think that's a huge help because the world of Midnight Task Force is incredibly out there already. Like it's everything is there. You just have to see if you can find a way to tell a story that they haven't told yet. So that definitely helps a lot. And the second part is that I felt safe in knowing that I was certain that they would read it because it's a contest. They read all the entries. And I think one of the big fears I had with my prose, which, just sending short stories to literary magazines and stuff, is that I always was scared that I would just get silence in return. And I would never know if it was because they read it and hated it or they just never got around to it. And, I'm okay with joining a contest and then not winning. And then, okay, then that you're not there yet. But I didn't like the uncertainty, maybe. Or maybe that's just how I rationalize the fear of failure. I don't know. But that's what I told myself.
So then, being one of the winners on your first submission, has that just kind of ignited the passion for writing in addition to the coloring on the other side? Like, did that give you the validation where you're like, now here's where I feel comfortable bringing more stories to the world that are inherently from you instead of somebody else's IP?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps a lot. It helps your confidence, and it also helps when you have how do I say this? You have an editor, you have the full infrastructure behind you, and sometimes when you ask questions, there's always going to be someone to answer it. So I think that's great. Like, I don't know, like if you said that here's a grant, like a grant that will take you through publishing 5 issues of a miniseries, I don't know that I would have had an easier time of it. Does that make sense? As opposed to working with a publisher, as opposed to just being given a grant, it helps. Like for me, anyway, it really helped me a lot to work with other people and the people who could guide me through the whole writing process and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I felt like it was a great experience.
Nice. And before we dive into They Fell from the Sky, when you are not actively wearing the hat as a colorist or now an author, what kinds of things do you like to do? What kind of passions do you have outside of your career?
Well, I have a 6-year-old son, so that pretty much eats up the majority of my time. But I also like playing video games. My husband and I both enjoy playing video games, and we played a lot of Nintendo Switch with my son. I've never played so much Mario Party in my entire life. but yeah, and like when on the rare occasions that I have a little time to myself, I like to play RPGs. Right now I'm playing Divinity 2, which is, like a massive world. And I think I'm going to finish at 150 hours. Right now I'm at about half of that. So, maybe I'll finish it next year. I don't know. We'll see.
No, that's awesome. I can relate. I have a 5-year-old, an almost 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So,
oh man, you must be really busy.
That's one way to put it. So They Fell from the Sky, which releases on February 2nd, and I'll switch back. So I know that some shops will adhere to the strict FOC date, that other shops, if you were to run in today and go, hey, try and grab this book for me, your shop might be awesome. But give people the quick elevator pitch of what the plot is.
Okay, so They Fell from the Sky is about a 12-year-old boy named Tommy Murphy who meets an alien who crash lands on Earth. I can't tell you the alien's name because it's a spoiler, and I can't tell you the reason why the alien crash lands on Earth because it is also a spoiler. But I promise you that it is a very exciting and in-depth reveal. So please do pick up the series.
And I will say, and as I share this video out again on socials after we're done, I'm pulling, I think, 4 copies of the book when it comes out, with the
great.
intention of giving 2 of them away. So I'll share something in the comments, because there are a lot of people, and weirdly enough, some of my friends from Florida, their shops don't get Mad Cave, and it's like, you're like a stone's throw away. So it's strange, but I would, if I didn't enjoy it, I would not spend extra money to ship it to folks. But before I ask you a couple of questions about the things that stick out to me, I know that with the talent search winners, one of the things that they kind of give you in this, not only are you writing a book, but you're getting a crash course in the publishing process, that they give like story stems to pick from. So was the premise of Boy Meets Alien the only stem that they gave you? Is that the one that you knew you wanted right away? Did you have some variety to go with?
Oh, right. So I didn't actually know that other folks got the chance to choose. I didn't get the chance to choose. I was
trying to think. I think it was either Stoney or Jared that told me that they got a chance. So maybe I'm now spreading fake news. So when they gave you the premise, did you change, like, is what this 5-issue story arc is going to look like different from the initial direction that they wanted to see a book come out with within the stem, or did you just kind of adhere to the creative universe that they wanted to get you to work in?
So I would say yes, because the story stem that they give is very, very what's the word for that? It's very simple, and they give you a lot of leeway. So basically, like when I was given the brief, it was like 1 page, and it basically just required that it'd be about Tommy. He had to be 12. It had to be about him meeting an alien. It didn't even say if the alien was friend or foe. So I actually had so much freedom to take it in the direction that I did, and I was very grateful for that. Just because I was even allowed to write my own extra characters, like Dylan and BT are Tommy's friends. I added them because they weren't initially in the brief, and when I looked at the initial outline that I had, I was like, I can make something very similar to an 80s feeling, kids adventure story, which we were talking about this before, that I was a big fan of when I was that age. So, and I feel like Stranger Things was kind of proof that you can take that genre and give it to today's audience, and it will be received well. So I wanted to kind of do something similar, but told with my own voice, my own perspective, and I knew it had to be in modern times, because I think Stranger Things was like 90s, right? Like the kids were in the 90s or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe early 2000s. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it didn't feel, because if you notice in the first issue, like Tommy has all the gadgets. He has like a computer, he has a laptop, he has a phone, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I really wanted to bring it to this generation and kind of reintroduce them to a genre that I really loved as a kid.
Yeah, well, and I think it's a good kind of marriage. So we talked about always lean the wrong way, since I don't have a clean way to share these. So this is from like the second or third page of the book, where we are seeing the crash landing of we don't know that it's an alien vessel yet, but we know that it is from the front matter, the cover and the little synopsis. So what made you decide to kind of have this kind of jump back and forth throughout a 12-hour period. That, the book starts with, the end of the day where he's with his friends talking about their favorite sci-fi TV show, and then, all of a sudden something crash lands, but then we're back, 12 hours before all that happened. What made you want to kind of show us more insight into his day?
Okay, so I always think that first issues are tricky because you have to establish so much, but you also have to grab the reader and get them interested. And I really wanted to give people insight on who Tommy was as a character, but I knew that we needed the exciting part as well. And that's why I kind of flipped stuff around a little bit in terms of storytelling, which is why we start with the crash land and then tell our story backwards until we get to that point. And it was really because I was intent on showing Tommy's day, and I wanted people to empathize with him, and I hope they empathize with him, and I want them to get to know who he is as a character. And I mentioned this as well to Greg, like the alien is going to be interesting because he's an alien. Like people will be, ooh, I want to know more about this crash landed alien in the spacesuit. But I felt like we were going to live and die by whether or not people cared about Tommy. And I knew it was important to put the drama into the first issue, but I also needed to make sure it didn't get boring. It didn't feel like, oh, this young man is going through his day and he gets bullied. And, it felt a bit too, not in the genre anymore. So we immediately had to start with the exciting part. Anyway, I hope it works.
Sense. And I think you were successful at kind of generating empathy for him. And that kind of leads me into the next panel that I want to show. And this one's way too big, so I'll leave it up for a second so people can kind of look at it. But, this is morning breakfast, where you see a lovely little sibling throwdown between Tommy and his sister Catherine, which you get to see their digs play out at each other. You get to see the idea of the potentially cool older sister at school. So I'm guessing by some of the events that play their way out, like the three kind of big scenes between the two of them, that is it wrong for me to expect seeing more of their relationship play out throughout the rest of the book?
No, not at all. I mean, Kat will definitely be in the rest of the series. I am very fond of her, and I also, again, I had an older brother, and he was much cooler than I ever was. So I do enjoy the sibling dynamic, and I hope people either see themselves in Tommy or Kat or any of the other kids. But yeah, you'll definitely see more of her.
We've got a good question from the chat. So this is my buddy Kevin over at Entropy in Comics. He says, so you wrote the story, then considered the format, then fit it to a 5-issue miniseries. So you want to kind of talk about what kind of freedom you had with creating the length of the arc and that kind of stuff versus kind of the expectations that Mad Cave kind of laid down for you as a talent search winner on your first book?
Okay, so as a talent search winner, we were all given 5 issues. And we were given 20 pages per issue. I did manage to get an extra 2 pages for the 5th issue, just because, it didn't fit. So yay. But yeah, the general brief and the, what do you call that? The technical part of 5 issues, 20 pages per issue is really all you get. And when I got the brief, I wrote a fleshed out outline of how I wanted it to go, and that meant per issue I wrote a milestone, and then I got all of those approved, and then we started breaking issues down. So after I got the 5-issue milestones approved, I started writing the outline, the bigger, longer outline for just issue 1, and then I finished issue 1. I finished issue 1 script, and then I moved on to issue 2, and then so on and so forth. So I mean, it's very, very what do you call that? It's very, very organized. Like you never really feel lost because you know exactly what's expected of you. And I will say that I was very happy with how much freedom we were given by Mad Cave. Like our editor was there to kind of guide us along the process and you know point out like plot holes or stuff that didn't quite match up, and you know he gave a lot of input on how to improve or tighten certain things. But like in terms of the major story beats, I mean, I never had any problem getting them approved. So yeah, I mean, I'm very like if you're thinking of joining the talent search and you're afraid you might get a bit sit on, I mean, don't be afraid. It's a great experience, and especially for amateur writers who are looking to get their start. I mean, I really have no complaints.
Well, and from everybody that I've talked to, both of the Chris's, Giovanni, everybody who is an editor over there, I've always heard that all of them know how to nudge you in the right direction. If there's a hill that you are willing to die on for a story process, that they're like, it just sounds like they have the right people to help groom talent that know the right balance between giving you your creative freedom versus them going, I've played this game for a while, it's not going to work. So I think that's something that's really cool about this process, because instead of, you know, you used the grant example earlier, if you were to kickstart a series, you would be left figuring out a lot of this stuff trial by fire, or playing with some of the knowledge that you have from the colorist side. Mm-hmm. But I think just the way that they kind of, you know, give you a safety net to make you feel comfortable throughout this process is one of the reasons why all of the books that have come out from Talent Search winners have just been fan-freaking-tastic, because I think Mad Cave just has a good, you know, internal machine to you know, guarantee that high-quality stuff comes out from everybody.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
The other thing that I liked before we show the alien ship reveal, that when you were like, oh, but it's on the cover, and it was not that big of a reveal for me. You know, there was the mention of, you know, Tommy being bullied. So I like how we have, you know, instead of him being just kind of a stereotype kind of nerdy teen, that you just can't put him into that, like, he's a sci-fi nerd kind of box, right? That everywhere he goes, he's fighting a battle against his sister, a battle against bullies, you know, the lovely racial slur that the sheriff throws at him, right? Yeah. He's playing with being a minority in a presumably, you know, massively white community, let alone playing with the expectations of his family. And I think, you know, in terms of saying that you wanted to, you know, you needed to build this world, but also keep this sci-fi connection to it, like, I think you do an amazing job, like, setting us up to care about Tommy, because all of his life is just kind of a living fight. So when something in it, you know, unexpected falls from the sky, you know, we're hoping that it works out for him. We're hoping that the to be named alien is a friend and not a foe. But I think it gives us a good lingering sense of doubt of, if this kid is just kind of getting, you know, kicked in the gut every time that he does something, is this going to be his escape, or is it going to be, you know, now he has intergalactic entities that are also attempting to ruin his day?
Yeah.
So I think that, like, that's some good, you know, good building of empathy. So we do get little reveals at the end, and, you know, we get a up close of the alien spacecraft, which we see on the cover, we see on, the front page. We get to see the alien on the inside. So what was it like kind of creating your own spacecraft, creating your own alien species? Like, what was it like to build this extra universe inside of your creative universe?
So I think a lot, like 100%, the visual look is all Savior. I think he did an amazing job. Like everything, like I sent him some pegs, but I said go crazy, do your thing, and he did admirably. He always had a few options for us to choose from, and yeah, I mean, like honestly, between A, B, and C, all of them are great. So I really have no complaints. In terms of the world building, it's hard because it's a spoiler, but the hierarchy and the planet. Again, I can't say the name,
Yeah.
but like the planet in which the alien came from. It was really fun coming up with their titles and the names of these things, and yeah, I can't say much more, but yeah, it was very fun.
Like, and I'll say hi to some other people who have hopped in. You are hitting Oregon's sweet spot that Oregon loves hearing about the creative process. So awesome. Sleeping Collectibles, thanks for swinging in. And then Oregon's last thing, yeah, world building is a rush, both from, creating a universe, but I really think what you said earlier, it becomes a delicate balance in a first issue. The number of books that I've picked up and dropped after issue 1 because it was world building with no spark, right? Or, you said you didn't want it to get boring, that you needed to, draw us into this, something else from outside coming in. I really think that you do kind of a good, succinct job of building the day in the life of Tommy, and now it's disrupted. And sure, this issue leaves us with a lot of questions, like, what's the alien's name? Where are they from? Why did they crash land? Like all of these different things. But those are the good kind of cliffhangers that will guarantee that people want to buy an issue 2. So I think that's, you found the smart balance there. So Xavier Torrega is the artist. He was also a talent search winner in the class of 2019 as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So was it nice to kind of know that the two of you you were working with someone else who was also kind of learning the steps through the publisher? That way it wasn't like, oh, this author over here, she doesn't know what she's doing. Was it nice that you all were experiencing the same learning curve together?
Okay, I think just in the case of Xavier, he's not really an amateur. He's been doing this for a while, but okay. So if I'm not mistaken, the requirement to join the talent search is that you just can't have been published by a publisher, or like a mainstream publisher. Xavier has been published by smaller indie publishers before, I think. I was looking through his portfolio and he's amazing. So I don't think he's particularly new at this. But that being said, he's nothing but gracious. He's a very, very kind person. I have communicated with him outside of just work, and he's a great guy. Like, no complaints. He's 100% professional. His art is great, and yeah, he's a great person.
Nice. So does the process now of kind of writing scripts, has it changed the way that you interact with or think about scripts as a colorist? Do your expectations for authors change? does your experience as a colorist kind of inform either the level of instructions that you give in a script versus just trusting the artistic team's like creative process? Like,
Yeah.
how do you find that balance?
Right. Okay. So I think that just because I am so new as a writer, the what do you call that? The influence has gone mostly from my coloring to my writing rather than from my writing to my coloring, because I've been coloring for for over 10 years. So I've gotten used to working with many different sorts of writers, and that's fine. That's I don't really have a preference. Like there are some writers who are writing a very detailed comic and they need to put in all the references. Like I was like, one of my first gigs, maybe within the first three years of my career, was kind of like historical science fiction, and there were Easter eggs throughout the graphic novel about real things that happened. So you can be sure that the PDF of the script was full of references, and I had to follow every single reference, and that's fine. And then I've also worked with creators like Richard Rivera, who is the writer and creator of Stabbity Bunny, who is very happy to just let me do my thing. And if I've gone too far, he'll tell me to pull back a little. But I more or less, he's very trusting and open with Dwayne and I. So with when I was writing the script, we didn't have a colorist yet. So I pretty much thought, okay, I shouldn't take anything for granted because I don't know who's coloring it. And so I put in the colorist notes that I felt were really important to the storytelling, and everything else I just left. So and that pretty much goes the same with Savior. Like I put in photo references for things that I felt were important to the story, and everything else I was like, go for it. Like, I trust you. You're amazing. I've seen your art. You're amazing. Go for it. So that's why I was saying all of the alien tech is really Savior. I mean, I gave him references of like Flash Gordon type stuff, and I said, please, let's do cartoony. Let's do this feel, but don't copy it. Obviously, do your own thing. And then for the setting, because Savior's from Spain, I'm from the Philippines. I mean, I researched Boonville because that was a setting that we were given to work within, and I did all my research on that. And I shared some of the photos that I got that I unearthed with Savior, and that's why I think somebody mentioned that. Oh, this looks great. This feels like it would be Boonville, and yeah, that's because we did a lot of research. But yeah,
nice. Well, and I think it's cool, and that's the other thing that I'll kind of say about everybody that I've talked to on Mad Cave Books is that you all, everybody who is created under their umbrella may be the least territorial creators that I've talked to, right? That everybody is all about singing each other's praises, and I think it's awesome to know that this story is very much the influence of everybody's kind of artistic background, with the editor kind of making sure everything kind of plays back together. I'll ask you one more series of questions, and then I'll let you go, because I know it is the beginning of your day and it is the end of mine. So everybody who's popped in and out know that I love to ask the question about soundtracks, and I've met the first person who is not musically inclined, so we changed it up a little bit in terms of playing with some items that I really feel like come from the aesthetic of the book. So while this is a very much modern day story, it does have some of that 80s nostalgia, like Goonies. There's the E.T. reference when you all see the solicitation for the second cover, that playing with those kinds of things. So what would be your favorite 80s film?
So I remember I really liked the Goonies, and we talked about whether or not it was an 80s film because I didn't remember. But yeah, so I really liked the Goonies. I also really liked Stand By Me. Again, I don't know if that came out in the 80s, but I'm pretty sure it was, earlier on. I think, yeah, those two films kind of, well, also E.T., of course. Those three films kind of really set the tone for the genre I was trying to capture.
Nice. The second one, since this is a book that deals with an alien that I'm dying to know more about, what is your favorite alien-related movie?
After all these years, I would still have to say Aliens 2, just because of Sigourney Weaver and the amazing character designs. It kind of started the whole military versus frightening alien horror thing, right? I thought it was amazing when I watched it, and I still remember it very fondly. I actually watched it recently, maybe like 5 years ago, and I still loved it. I still found Bill Paxton hilarious, and
Nice.
I still like it.
We'll say what's up to Manny, the author of El Crudo is in the house, saying that Mad Cave is bringing the heat these days. Oregon is smiling at Better Off Dead, but I think I know that he's trying to bait me into doing this.
Johnny. 4 weeks. 20 papers, that's $2 plus tip.
Gee, Johnny, I don't have a dime. Sorry.
Didn't ask for a dime. $2.
I think he was baiting me into that one. But no, Alien 2, that's a good, respectable answer. And then the last one, what is your favorite, like, buddy comedy, odd coupling, any of these kinds of things?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that question, and I would just say Lilo and Stitch, even though it came out when I was fully an adult. I actually really enjoyed that. I thought it was very cute, and I was thinking about it a lot when I was writing They Fell from the Sky as well, and I was really hoping to capture the attention of children, ages 8 to 12. So yeah.
Well, and this is something that I feel comfortable sitting down and sharing with my 5-year-old, right? That he's getting interested in space things that, it has maybe some little spooky elements like any kind of, sci-fi will have, but it's something that's not terrifying. And it's interesting to know that, someone who colors on Stabbity Bunny is also given the reins on a solid, like, YA and beyond kind of book. So I think that's pretty cool. And Lilo and Stitch is a respectable answer. And, reading the book, seeing these kinds of different influences that play their way in, I think one of the most powerful things that you said in your interview with Bearded Comic Bro was that, this story is something similar to what we've heard before, but something that we've not heard in your voice. And I think that's a really kind of powerful way to kind of think about it, right? The number of original ideas that somebody hasn't played with, are finite, but these story tropes, these different ideas work because they're time tested, and they work or they become more successful if you find that a creator has their own angle. And I think, you successfully nail that in this book. And like I said, I'm quite excited. I am definitely buying extra copies to share with the community because I think it's that cool of a book. And I believe in your artistic work, right? That when you emailed me your website, I was creeping around your portfolio, looking at other things. right? Knowing that this was your first time writing a book blows my mind from just how conceptually tight the book is. That, like I said, like you said, this is all building a world and an empathy for the main character Tommy, and doing that in 20 pages in an issue one while setting up an arc and knowing that you only have 4 more books to close off the story. I think, you've done some some amazing work here that makes me excited as a fan to keep reading more and more and more.
Thank you.
So I'm going to swap us places really quick, and I'm going to make you super big. So you want to take a minute or so to promote yourself, tell people other projects that you've got coming out, either from a written perspective or where you've got some color work done, that kind of stuff.
All right, thanks so much. Okay, so these are all coloring projects. I actually just heard that this was coming out a couple of days ago. So I have Wild Bull and Chipper coming out from Scoot Comics, which is the all ages imprint of Scout Comics. It is by the exact same team as Stabbity Bunny. It's a mini series by Richard Rivera, art by Dwayne Biddix, colors by me, letters by James Reed. And I hope you guys can pick it up. It's coming out first week of March. I also have the latest issues of Ivory Ghosts and Dragons by the Yard coming from Kymera Press, a new mini-series from TPub Comics called Amputation Capital, and a new series called Fairtalia from 215 Inc. All of these are don't have release dates yet, except for Wild Bull and Chipper, but they should be coming out in 2021.
Nice. I'm excited to see the Stabbity Bunny team behind a Scoot book, because what I've read from Scoot is also really, really good. Like, I don't care that I'm reading a book that's made for a younger audience, because they don't feel that way. So maybe I'll be able to sneak a Stabbity Bunny in on my 5-year-old and just continue to ruin him in my image and all of those other things. But I know you've got things to do. It's the start of your day, so happy Friday. You have survived the week. Thank you so very much for your time. And you can creep on Liezl's Instagram to find out release dates on all these other projects. And I can't wait to see, like I said earlier, if this is your first book that you have written, I want to see what it looks like after you've survived your first arc. I can't wait to see more things that you do as you continue to expand on both sides of the creative spectrum.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Have a good one. I'll click you out and I'll play my fun intro bumper again, or my interview bumper. But thank you for your time. I can't wait for number 2. All right. See, I always say I'm going to click something, but I forget that I have to have like 12 windows up. So here we go.
When I'm flying in a plane or I'm on the street, there's a lot of famous people that I like to meet. They shake my hand and never ask my name, and they start asking questions that are always the same. Hey.
All right. So I had 1 or 2 other things that I wanted to knock out this evening at the end of the stream, and then I'm going to fall asleep because I've got stuff to grade, and it's the next to last day of our semester tomorrow. But Nova Scotia Pop Hunters, thanks for swinging in. The first thing that I will tell you is that next Thursday night at this same time at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, I will be interviewing another Mad Cave Talent Search winner, another Mad Cave author, where I know I will at least have David Hazan, who is the author of Nottingham. And the best way that I can think of to summarize this book is Red Hood meets Robin Hood. That if you want to see a dark horror kind of Robin Hood book, then Nottingham may be up your alley. So I'm excited to see who I've got, if there's anybody else in addition to David who, like Liezl is in the Philippines, David is in Australia. So we're getting an international time zone difference that we get to play with, which you all know that my brain doesn't handle time zones well. So it's been fun getting to schedule these. The second thing that I'm going to do next week is release the identities of all of the contestants that I have confirmed for season 2 of Comic Book This or That. And I'm going to attempt to give you all the start date of season 2. The last thing I wanted to do really fast, I've got 2 things that I wanted to open, mostly because I'm too lazy to want to edit another unboxing video. But I've been buying a bunch of stuff off of eBay as of recent, and I opened something that I thought was the first of the next wave of eBay purchases coming in, and it came with a note. It says, "I'm Drew with the Two Man Comic Book Club podcast. We recently had a giveaway, and your friend Tegar won and asked us to pass it on to you as an A-OK. This is a copy of the trade paperback, and I won't tell you what the name is, that I'll show you. But it was the first series that they ever covered on the podcast. So I will, as I add links back to the description below, I'll add a link for the Two Man Comic Book Club. But this is the second sweet A-OK that Tegar has sent my way, that Tegar won my 500 subscriber giveaway. And he knows that I love indie stuff and hooked me up with some dope AWA number 1s that he picked up. So this is X-Men, the worst X-Man ever. And this is something that A, I didn't know existed, but B, y'all know that I am a big fan of Max Bemis, not just from his Say Anything days, because I'm constantly living in my, punk and emo phase from high school and college, but I like the work that he's doing on Heavy right now. I've gone back and read some of his issues of Moon Knight, and I think he's one hell of an author. So getting his take on the X-Men is something that I'm very excited to check out. The second thing you see is I've got, my banner running along the bottom. That Sunday nights, y'all know that I host an auction, and sorry I wasn't there on last Sunday. I was not feeling well. So AM, KM, and the rest of the crew held down the fort. But the other 2 things that I wanted to show off tonight were some things that I bought from my own auction. Manny, thanks for swinging by. Be on the lookout for my El Crudo 1 through 4 video that I'm still trying to get some of the sound editing just right. But my goal is to release that and a couple other indie comic focused review videos in the next 2 weeks. So this was a lot I picked up from my guy, the immortal Biggie Shack, who, if you have not subscribed to Biggie, you should do so. He is a stone's throw away from hitting 1,000 subscribers. And if there is anybody who is working harder to, no, I don't think anybody really outworks him in terms of creating content, going live, chatting with the community, and all of that kind of stuff. But I picked up a nice little lot of a character that I am starting to get into more, and it's Darkhawk. So I've got a pretty nice looking copy of Darkhawk number 1, number 2, number 4, number 13, and number 37. So a good buckshot across the board, but I was excited to get a Darkhawk number 1 at a decent price. That's been picking up just a little bit of steam as of recent, because there are some folks who think we might see Darkhawk as the MCU is continuing to grow and expand. And then the other box, and I'm going to lean away from the mic. is another set of things that I've picked up from someone who regularly sells on my Sunday night auction. And this is stuff that I both picked up on my auction and then also some of the stuff that he sold on Meta's. And these are all books from Tricky Trapster. He has started to figure out that I like very, very weird books, as a lot of you all have also figured out as well, that in addition to all of the, modern indies that I'm pulling, I've started falling in love with, like, the radioactive black belt hamsters, death-crazed teenage superheroes, and then just like we were talking about stuff in the 80s during the interview, my nostalgia for the 80s comes back real hard when people put some of these lots up in auctions. So here's the first pile of things, and then that's the one I want to set aside because that's the coolest thing I picked up from him. So I've got the Real Ghostbusters #1 from Alf Comics. That Ghostbusters might be like, my mom tells the story that that's where I learned my first curse word, that God damn it from Ghostbusters 1 came out of my mouth. Here is the Alf Summer Annual #1, 64 pages of goodness with Alf on Mount Rushmore. And then we've got Mantec Robot Warriors #4, #2, #3, Zen Intergalactic Ninja #1, some of those good 80s and 90s Archie adventure series. Fright Night #1 in 3D, #2 also in 3D. It came with a Dark Shadows #1 from Innovation Comics, which I feel like I've got like 30 copies of that. This is the book in another lot that I might have been the most excited about getting. Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew. This is #7. We've got Mystery Incorporated #1 from Image. And then I think a lot of you all know that I'm a big Submariner fan. Submariner Special #2, and it's a collection of some of his greatest tales that I have foregone collecting some of the original Submariner runs for the Marvel Classics Presents because it's way closer to my price range. And then in the second cluster of lots, and then the book that I'm sitting on waiting to show you, if you don't know, Tricky is also an artist that he does sketch covers, he does original art, he does all kinds of things, and I finally made the good life decision of picking up one of his sketch covers that I will probably put in a top loader that I can frame. But I'll show that to you in a second after I crack into this second lot. Where's that last piece of tape? Here it is. And then I'll be done. I'll go an hour so I can finish grading and then maybe go to bed at a normal period in time. But from Malibu Comics, we've got the Mighty Magnor #1. From Star Comics, Mad Balls, that I don't know if any of you may remember that those existed as toys for a while, but Mad Balls #6. What is a ridiculously cool cover from Marvel, The Toxic Avenger #14, that is paired with, wait for it, Saved by the Bell #1. Hell yeah. Cops the Job, number 1 and number 3. There might be a number 2 in there. Yeah. And then She Devils on Wheels from Aerosol Comics. So we've got is that number 2? Yep, number 1 and number 2. The American Way from Wildstorm. And that's the whole 8-issue run of The American Way. I saw a note on this book before I show his work, but he said, "Here's a fun A-OK. Thank you for letting me be on your auction and being kind." Oh, and I don't have this one. Marvel Team Up. It's number 14. Spider-Man and the Savage Submariner. That's awesome. And then another What If I don't have, but is totally with my brand. What if Namor had joined the Fantastic Four? And you can see that they're all wearing 5. Nova Scotia, yeah, I didn't know there was a Mad Balls comic either. So that's going to be one of those wild things that I go back and see if I can find more of. So here's his original sketch cover. Y'all know that I am a big X-Men fan. While I am not the world's biggest collector of like sexy comics and sexy covers, here is your Tricky Trapster original Wolverine sketch cover. So there you go. I got to hide that one from my kids. But you can see, right, just the detail work in that. The color work is really, really cool. And after I sell some more stuff on one of my auctions in the near future, or if I hop on Metas in the next couple of days, I have a couple of Something is Killing the Children sketch variants that I'm going to send his way for some commission pieces, because I think he's insanely talented, that I like everything that he's done. And if you watch his back wall in any of the videos, any of the auctions, whatnot, you see him in, everything is quite cool. So I'll drop Tricky's information in the description as well, that if you want to check out the rest of his kind of art, then you can find, and look at a sampling of some of his work on Instagram. But that's all I've got for tonight. I was very excited and want to say thank you to Liezl Buenaventura, the author of the upcoming Mad Cave Studios comic, They Fell from the Sky. Number 1 is in stores on February 2nd, so you should see if you could still get a chance at ordering that from your shop, or, like I've said a couple of times, I'm picking up some extra copies to be able to use as giveaways, because I think it's that cool of a story that I know a lot of shops might not pick up. But thanks for giving me a chunk of your Thursday night. Hopefully I'll see some of you next Thursday night, as we have an interview with David Hazan and the revealing of some of the cast of characters and some of the changes that we're going to make to season 2 of Comic Book This or That. And I still have a spot or 2 available, so if you are interested in the idea of hopping on the insanity that is the random comic book debate topic show, then let me know, and we can hash something out either on Twitter or Instagram. But I thought it was a good night. Nice, simple. We're out here in just over an hour, and I'm excited. So I'm very appreciative of everybody who swung by and gave me a few minutes of your time. And I'll end this in the same way that I do everything else. Thanks for stopping by, and have a good one.
I was banging 7-gram rocks, that's how I roll. Winning, I had 1 gear, go, epic. Winning, are you bipolar? I'm bi. Winning, win here, win there, win everywhere.